Y'all know it's BC, and then McLaren's don't make sense. I'm reacting to Candace Owens interviewing Ray J, and he brought along his transgender friend in order to bring a deeper understanding. This is in response to Candace Owens having that interview with Don Lennon, which I totally agree with, because a man with a man being married is an abomination. I'm a Bible dispensationalist. That means you believe in every aspect of the Bible, not just part of it. And they just wanted to come on here, I guess, to defend that community. Let's get right into it.
That she would just, notice like certain things that were different to the other kids. And when I'd vocalized to her how I felt and that I kept comparing myself to Ashton, and that's my older sister, and would talk like even about genitalia, which obviously I didn't understand at that time, but I even physically did things to myself that made no sense, kind of like to her, in comparison to why I wasn't like my sister when we'd have bath time and things like that. So that was the first verbalization. And then as I got older, it just got stronger because I was able to verbalize things more.
What I'm gonna say about parents, especially nowadays, they tend to be their kid's friend instead of being a person that's a leader to guide in the right direction. And what ends up happening when kids are displaying erratic behavior, you're supposed to correct it. You're supposed to teach them at that moment that is not appropriate. This is how you adorn yourself. But instead, these parents nowadays, they look at something and say, "Oh, they believe they're this." It makes them happy. Everything is about prosperity. Prosperity gospel. It's like going to church, hearing good words and fair speeches, but they'll never tell you the truth. They'll never dive in deep to the Bible. You'll never learn the depths of it. Only the same old prosperity gospel that they preach. And this is what happens in homes nowadays. Instead of getting to the nitty gritty, it's all on the surface.
But the interesting thing was, and once again, this is only my experience, and I'm just speaking today from a personal experience of being trans. When I was being really out there with my vocalizations about being trans, all of a sudden, when I had realized in school that it wasn't appropriate to be saying those things and it wasn't normal and it was weird or I could be bullied for it.
Wait a minute, it took you all the way to high school to realize that. That means your parents did not verbalize it, or you was completely rebellious. And to me, if it takes you all the way to high school to realize that what you are saying is inappropriate, and you can literally be exposing other children to that type of behavior, that means that what was going on in the home wasn't being thoroughly explained and wasn't being corrected at all. So that's
I completely went the opposite and I never brought it up again. So that was kind of like late primary to full high school. It was never a topic to my family ever again until I graduated.
Okay, so a couple
so that's just crazy to me, when you think about that type. Now let's go on to this here. I like what Candace Owens had brought up here.
of kids are, and I say that with all the love in my heart, but they say ridiculous things all the time. And one of the things that's been concerning to me is to hear so many celebrities try to, I guess, validate the stupidity of children and pretending and going, well, this must be real. Most notably, what comes to mind, I believe Charlize Theron had a daughter or a son, but the story goes one day in the bathtub, my son or daughter looked up at me and said, "Mommy, I'm a girl," and that was it. That Charlize Theron then allowed her child to begin transitioning, and that to me sounds like a mental disorder that the parent is suffering for some reason. And a lot of the times, I've noticed this trend that it does tend to be single women that
And you know what that is too? The Bible says the simple believe anything. And when you look at people that will utilize a situation with their child, getting something, being in confusion, and you literally expand upon that when they're not even mentally developed, shows a mental disorder in you. It does. It's an opportunist to me, a person that will use anything in order to push what they want and be negligent. And that to me is very disdainful. It's crazy that you would just hear a child say, "Oh, that's a boy say, Mommy, I want to be a mermaid." And you're going to take it as, "Oh my God, I'm going to support them being a girl." Like, what? It's like it has no validity. It has no essence. It's like I said before, I believe some people are opportunists and they're driven by innate aspects that are spiritual to me. I believe a lot of people don't realize that they have lost the will over their own soul.
Sort of encourage this thing. So I'd like to ask you if you have a son
And a daughter.
and your son's how old?
My son's 4.
Okay, he's 4,
Mhm.
perfect age.
My daughter's
If
6.
your son was in a bathtub and your son said anything in the bathtub, "Dad, I'm a mermaid," why would you then say, well, this must really mean that my 4-year-old toddler, who also thinks he can fly, who also thinks like Santa Claus is real and can squeeze down the chimney, why is it this thing that people go, oh, well, this must be a sign that my child's really struggling with identity?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very early. I would say just me being a new parent, right? And what's crazy about the mermaid thing, my son likes to follow his sister, right? He loves her and whatever she does, he wants to do. Same with me back. I used to double dutch and jump rope before I, started to hang out with my friends. Just because I wanted to follow my big sister. She got a mermaid outfit. He wanted one. So I got him a mermaid. He wanted to be a merman for because she was in, she was swimming with the mer. So I'm like, all right, you want to be a merman? Then cool, I'll get you one. But I didn't think of it in the sense of that yet, just because, again, they're young and they're learning things as they go.
You see how he kept looking at his friend because he got wrapped up in a question that Candace Owens had to ask him. Hey, if your son, Thomason, they want to be a mermaid, he said you could be a merman. You know, I'll support him with that. And then saying, yeah, he's too young to be making those type of decisions based off of an ephemeral moment. You made a lifelong decision. That's why there's a lot of people in that community that are deleting themselves. There's a lot of people in that community that have so many different issues, an array of them, because parents have a lack of just intelligence. People aren't even meant to be parents. And that is a prime example, of a individual that will allow their kids to transition based off a moment is downright crazy.
And I
So,
wanted to piggyback off that as well. Sorry to cut
no,
you
go.
off. Is with that was like a really valid question, but I have to state that with my mum, what she did was it wasn't a validation of really how I thought and acted on it straight away. My mum was a listener. So my mum never shut me down for the things that I'd verbalize. But as for like counseling and transition, that was done way later. And that was never to punish me, but it was always like my mum was like a soundboard, but she never pushed.
Yeah, and you
Right.
said
So I
and you
think
said
that's
that.
Like I said before, there was no discipline. This is giving your kids leeway. The Bible says if your daughter was to become shameless, give her the liberty, the freedom to act on that type of behavior. And a lot of people are giving their children the freedom. It says gather instruction from thy youth. And people are allowing their kids to make these decisions as if they're, adults already, making permanent decisions as if they're adults. And I was like this one point, she brought up with her father, how he felt about it.
for because I'm going to be honest today, obviously, just to get the story right. Obviously, my dad struggled with it more than my mum. But what later on came in the years, like later on when we conversed, was my dad said his issue was it was never accepting and understanding because he could see it with his own eyes my whole life, but it was the communication that he lacked on. So he
I don't believe that the communication he's seen his whole life. He probably just felt, at that moment in time because her parents were divorced, and he didn't want to lose his son by not supporting, the mom's ideals when it came down to you, which is truly sad. Because I don't, any man that loves his mother, his father, sister, brother, children more than the Lord is not worthy of him. That's why you got to stay strong and be steadfast. Because when people try to push an agenda, you got to be able to fight against it regardless. You got to be, if you got to, push a few buttons on people, if you got to rile people up, but if it's the truth and you want to save your children, just like Christ got to come down and save everybody and how he had to die for our sins, come on. people act like it was all joyous, it's all fun, some type of euphoria. It's not. It's pain and suffering. That's why they said those that endure unto the end. But this is truly sad when you think about it. Let's get into the other part. I'm going to be too long on this video.
That and letting biological women know that we're well aware we're trans women, and if people are out there saying anything otherwise, that's something that I don't want to back.
Right?
Because
so
that's
now
not
we're
my
bridging the gap.
experience.
Right.
Now we're bridging the gap, Candace.
Yeah, I'm well aware of
Now
who
we're
I am
getting
and what I
somewhere with
am.
this.
Do you, Ray J, believe that Danielle is a woman?
Yes. I've never once, even every time we talk, I've
Yeah.
always said Danielle shit. I'm that's what it is. Like, and all of my friends that are in the community, I mean, we have a whole agency, right? Shout out to Tarad and Dumpin' D. It's
I got to stop right there. This dude is just using the community for a cash cow, and he's denying the truth. When you deny the truth, you're susceptible to confusion. It's crazy to me. You're going to call her slash him a real woman. She's a woman to you, right? That is confusion within itself. That is a he. It's a man wearing, his hair a certain way, dressing in women's garments, but it is a man. And that is what's causing confusion within this community, within our community as a whole, because I believe we suffer the most from this. Our children are literally going astray because of this. We're losing a lot of that traditional values that we had in our community, producing, you know, submissive, beautiful women and strong leaders, men. And we're missing that because we are allowing ourselves to conform to every ideal that's being pushed. It's truly crazy.
the full agency, right? And then we have the girls club, right? So there's different layers and different things that people like to do in their world that they like to be outside of work. But when we all come to work, everybody's on time, everybody's on point. What happens after work? I mean, it ain't, you know what I'm saying? I could only imagine what some of my other friends do, some of my boom operators and camera guys, they real freaks, right? So who knows what they doing? All I know is that when we did the girls club, we shot it in Agora Hills.
Yeah.
It was a lot of intense drama. You know, everybody was trying to tell their story, so it got really dramatic, and it was a lot of like physical altercation. So we had to call another security team in. Security team got there, and the security team ended up falling in love with all the girls there. So they never left. So the security team would hang out with the girls after the set. And when it was 8 o'clock call time, they just got out the bed and went to work, got dressed, right? Because everybody started locking in. And that showed me that
Locking in. He just explained a dang orgy. I don't know what's going on here, but this is just truly sad. That's what you call locking in. That's what you call, you know, somehow building camaraderie, right? That is just nonsense to me. I don't know what this guy is talking about at this point. Crazy.
people after work and people in their own time is going to love doing what they do.
And that's supposed to be appropriate. All right, let's keep him.
It's everything you wished for. Your site traffic is skyrocketing until
What's on you, you know what I mean? And there is really no difference but what your preference is outside of work, outside of us coming together and doing what we need to do to finish the goal at hand.
No, but what is the difference between me and Danielle?
She's a trans woman and you're a
And the biology.
biological woman. Is that what? Yeah, because getting educated every day on it, right?
Ray asked a lot of
But you're
questions.
getting educated on speech rather than being educated on what you know to be right and
Well,
wrong.
no, I know. Well, not right and wrong. I just know
Yeah.
what's the difference.
So if you have to differentiate, and I'm glad that you are, because I do think that that's much more respectful than where a lot of people are coming from, who self-identify as transgendered. But if you have to delineate, if you have to say I'm a trans woman and Candace is a woman, then that necessarily means that we are not the same, right? We are something different.
I think everybody is different. Every human is different.
Yeah.
Nobody's the same.
You say he's trying to gaslight. Now he's talking about personality. Now he's talking about probably facial features. Nobody's talking about that. She's strictly talking about between a woman and a trans woman, somebody who is trying to transform into a woman that is a biological man. But a woman is a woman because she can have children. She has ovaries. She has a uterus. But he's literally trying to negate from that.
Yeah, I agree.
Nobody's
And I
the
feel
same.
like even I wanted to double on that point is with intersex, let's be honest, a lot of people just back in the day used to say hermaphrodite and now it's known as intersex. Hermaphrodite and then now grammatically correct is intersex.
Grammatically correct?
Yeah, and I'm learning too, mind you, because I had to learn what intersex
Because
was.
hermaphrodite is when you got
When you're born with basically both organs or XY chromosomes mixed and things like that. So it's not just I'm going to take a hormone, it's actually the way you're born.
So what does that mean?
So that basically it makes the topic of trans actually more complex because a lot of people now that are intersex identify under the trans umbrella. So it can get very tricky in conversation because one point I wanted to make is that I have often wondered, and maybe we could film this one day because I actually don't know, but my family have actually pulled me aside and said based on the way I look, move in my whole journey, that they wanted to get a test to see if I was actually intersex.
Intersex. You got to be kidding me. They try to use somebody born with a deformality to justify that homosexuality must exist naturally. That is not a natural occurrence. That is a deformality. So to try to even use that is psychotic.
Because it would make more sense with my whole journey, the way I look and the way that my life has unfolded. But it's a very expensive test from
wait,
what I've
there
heard,
might
and
be
I never
another
had that done.
chromosome?
Yeah. So that's what.
And to be clear,
Yeah, and that's when it does start to change because, as you can imagine, and even from a religious standpoint, because I've had this conversation with Christian women before, does that then make it different because it's actually is how you're born versus a lot of people saying it's a choice?
Yes.
Well, like Candace,
I
we might be missing a chromosome. Like there might be
I
a
might be, and I don't
you know what I'm
even
saying?
know.
There
I
might
need
be
to- I
one
need to-
chromosome missing in certain humans
I would
that
love
we
to
ain't
do the
paying attention
test.
to. That's why we bridging the gap today.
All right, guys, some exciting news. We just launched our new store on Sticker Mule. It's packed with awesome Candace Owens merch, including stickers, t-shirts, and Candace. Go check it out right now.
So to be clear, it is plausible. Very, very, very small minority of people who are literally born hermaphrodites.
Yeah,
You're
it's
correct.
a small percentage.
That is considered a genetic anomaly, right? So something goes wrong, and
Yes.
you can be born with two parts. That something has gone wrong.
But why can't it just be
issue-
right for that
Yeah,
person?
because I feel like wrong is
Well, genetic
wrong's an
anomalies
interesting
happen. Like
word.
if everything
But
goes
isn't that
right,
God?
if
Like if
everything
me and her was attached together, are we wrong?
See, I feel
but
like
that is also something when
Yes,
something goes wrong. This is
Simon.
why like
That's something being wrong. They're trying to glorify deformalities. They're trying to glorify recessive genes. They're trying to glorify missing pieces. That doesn't make any sense. But this is what the world has been promoting for a long time, especially coming up on these latter years. It happened back in the day, with the Greeks and the Romans, and even in Egypt, ancient Kemet. They tried to push this agenda, and look what happened to those civilizations. They all fell because when you try to push something that is literally a deformality, something that wasn't meant to be an anomaly, all that happens is confusion.
But I
Siamese
don't
twins,
know
and
if- I
they
don't
have to
know if
have these
wrong is the right
surgeries, and
word.
their organs can be mixed, and it's a
I don't
risk.
think
Think it's
wrong
different.
It
is
is,
the
but
right
something
word. though.
goes wrong when somebody is born
But why is
intersex.
it wrong?
I
Because
don't think
it's
it's
like,
wrong. I
but
think
we
it's
all
just
believe.
unique.
Yeah, we all believe that
'Cause I
God
seen a
created
snake and it had
us.
2 heads.
But I feel like that could also.
Let me say something about that. At the end of the day, the reason why it's wrong is because when somebody has to alter you, you have to take drugs. You have to inject certain. If it was natural, if you were naturally a woman, you wouldn't need to inject anything into you. You would already be born with a uterus. You already be born with fallopian tubes. But with individuals saying that they're a woman and they're a man, that is downright ridiculous because you don't have the parts. You wasn't born natural. If you got to take drugs like Lupron, which is just castration, which they give children, is just madness. A lot of this stuff is being pushed, and people have to start fighting back. Stop being afraid to speak on these matters and realize that your kids are at risk. Single mothers are at risk because a lot of males are not in the household, and there's really no guidance on the male side. So a lot of women are thinking they have to take on that testosterone to be manly and be masculine, and it's actually hurting them to be compatible with future partners and to also, raise their children the right way. Because when you don't have a two-parent household, it causes a lot of issues. It truly does. That's why people need to seek therapy, seek spirituality and truth, or otherwise you'll be falling in situations just like this. I'm in the video because otherwise it'd be like 2 hours long. I'm up out of